everyone, and welcome to CSS Combinators. So by the end of this lesson, hi, caught myself this time. I'm not screen sharing. Thought I was screen sharing. Didn't talk for 10 minutes before having it pointed out to me. Where's my medal? All right, so CSS Combinators. My objective for this lesson is that each and every one of you will be able to correctly use combinators. So let's go through a list of the combinators. Let's round robin this. Sharon, give me one combinator.
The and sign or the plus.
Yep. Anybody remember what that's called?
Is that sibling?
Like close.
Oh no, the very next one, right?
Yep.
It's the one you use in your menu all the time. The
adjacent
first,
sibling.
Yeah.
There we go. Adjacent sibling. Parnell, give me another combinator.
The direct descendant, the left hand.
Direct descendant. John Lake, give me another combinator.
Now of course I'm spacing on all of them.
Hey, you like that was one. Spacing on it, you say? What's the space? Parnell gave you half the answer. What is it?
It's just descendant.
Yeah, so John, what is it?
Just the descendant.
There we go.
Yeah, sorry.
You're all good. All right, so we have adjacent sibling, we have direct descendant, we have descendant. How about amp? Give me another one.
General sibling. It's a tilde.
Good, very nice. Sibling, very nice. Bryce, any others you can think of?
No, I can't think of any other ones other than that. I'm sorry.
Cool, that's fine. Let's work with these for a bit. All right, so with these as our combinators, two of them are about children, two of them are about siblings. So let's get out of HTML. Let's just think of this in terms of the tree. So if I have HTML at the top of the tree, and then I have body and head below that, and then I have header and main, and then header has maybe an H1 and a nav, and that nav has a UL, and the UL has 3 LIs, and one of those all these LIs have links. Maybe over in main, we've got something like an H2 followed by a paragraph, followed by a section. that section has another heading and a paragraph and another paragraph. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so imagine an HTML document. It looks like this. Let's take a look at these siblings. So an adjacent sibling is if that's what I'm doing this in relation to, its adjacent siblings are this one and this one. It's got two adjacent siblings, right? If I do this one, that has one adjacent sibling. If I do this one, how many adjacent siblings does that have? Think to yourself for a second. How many adjacent siblings does that have? Chris.
1, and it's the main.
Yeah, because you go up to the parent, you go, do I have a sibling after me? Yes, you do. What about that one? How many adjacent siblings does this have? Think to yourself. I want to hear from Sarah.
1.
Which one?
The H one.
Over here? Love it. How many adjacent siblings does this have? I want to hear from Scott.
It would be 2.
No. Why? So the answer is none. Why does it have no adjacent siblings, even though it's got these other siblings here? Open to anybody.
They're all in the same tree.
They're all in the same.
Nothing comes after it.
Nothing comes after it. So its adjacent siblings would be over here. Both of these are its siblings. That's its only adjacent. Its adjacent sibling is nothing. So Scott.
So can I ask you a follow-up? Because if Nav has one adjacent, and that's where I kind of got lost. You said Nav
sorry.
has an adjacent.
Then I did that wrong. I spaced on that.
Yeah,
this doesn't have any.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I thought it was good, and then you said that's right for one, and I got lost.
Nope. Old man Coberly's brain computers run a little bit slow today. Okay, so that doesn't have any adjacent siblings, but it does have 2 regular siblings. So if I was comparing to that and I did the tilde instead of the plus, that's going to target these 2. More questions about adjacent sibling versus sibling. Yeah.
I have a question. So when we were doing the nav example, technically, so obviously one doesn't, or the H1 doesn't have anything underneath it in the tree, so it's not an adjacent sibling. I understand that. But why wouldn't section then be an adjacent sibling? Or is that a dumb question because it's on a different part of the tree?
Different part of the tree. Even though they're at the same hierarchy level,
yeah,
doesn't count because they're not part of the same tree.
Okay.
It has a
Great
different
question.
parent. It can't be a sibling.
So which pair is an adjacent sibling? Just to be clear.
Sure. So these 2 are siblings. These 3 are siblings, but these 2 don't have any relationship with each other.
Okay.
Even though they're at the same level of hierarchy, they have different parents, so it doesn't matter.
So when you're using the tilde for the sibling selector, that will not include the original element in your style, will it? Like if you had H2 tilde P,
sure,
it wouldn't include the H2, would it?
Well, let's take a look. So I'm going to code that up real quick, and we'll see. So if I make a new file, actually I'm going to copy my one from the hamburger demo. So I'll say hamburger demo, combinator demo. Go into my combinator demo. Get rid of that. Go into the HTML. We got a lot of that already. So that's a header h1 nav ULLIA. All right, that part of it's good. And then this one was main, which had an h2, a paragraph, a section with an h2, and 2 paragraphs. Come on. Okay, so we've modeled this out. If I go over here, blow out all these styles, except Roboto, and let's serve it up. NPX light server. Cool. All right, so question is, if I select this LI, or sorry, if I select siblings of this LI, does it also select the other LIs? So if I go over to index CSS and say nav li sibling LIs, and do background color red. Oh, damn. What if I make that that? What if I do target like a specific one? Nth child 2. What happens? Man, I kind of feel like that combinator should be hitting the other ones, though. Shoot, maybe I misunderstand it. Let's take a look. Sibling.
Well, isn't knife child starter like it starts at whatever number you put, and then it's after the fact, right?
It would just be like adjacent sibling
Well,
in that one.
That's kind of what the whole selector is doing. Is it's saying from this point on. Apply
yeah, so
the
I'm not
thing.
sure why that's working the same as the adjacent one, though. Let's see. Ah! Check that out. Check out that.
So how is that different than adjacent siblings?
Ooh. So who can clarify that? That's an interesting one. Still needs to be after, but
oh, that one says it doesn't have to be immediate. So it could be a sibling from further down. It doesn't have to be in a row.
So this might be more clear if perfect. Let's do this with section or with this H2. So if I do H2 section, so I'm targeting this thing, or sorry, an H2 inside of section. So if I do that, and I do one that's the sibling combinator for P, then I would expect to see both of those light up. So like tilde P.
Can we look at that on your whiteboard just so there's a reference? I think you're missing. Yeah.
There we go. Cool. So both of those lit up. I targeted this and said any P that is a sibling of that. And so I got both of those. Check out what happens if I make that adjacent. There's only one P that immediately follows an H2. There are two P's that are later than the H2.
Kyle, so, I got to ask, I mean, so wouldn't you get the same result from just using the P by itself, like not including the section
in
H2?
this case.
Okay.
But that could interfere with your P elements later on in your website, right?
Exactly. So if I'm only trying to get those and I do that, oops, then it hits all of them. Well, I don't want that. Come on. So instead, if I make it a P that comes, any P that comes after an H2, well, that one's an H2 also. If I narrow it down to section, now it's those. If I make it adjacent, it's only that one.
So this just allows you to select content without having to basically give it a class, because you're working your way through the actual like syntax format in HTML on CSS.
It doesn't matter that these are tags and not classes. So if I go back over here and call this about me, and I call this about me heading, and I call this the lead, and I call this the whatever, then I can still do, actually no, those both need to be P's. Never mind. For that to work. This could be like content and content. And then we just swap all these out. So that section was about me. That was about me heading. There we go. Works the same way. Change it to...
So as far as best practices go, would you say it's better to target the elements, or would you say it's a better practice to create classes and target those instead?
I lean really heavily on tags in my own stuff. Almost nobody does. I try to call out when there's something that I do that is uncommon. I use tag selectors more than any other front-end developer I know. And the reason for that is I'm pretty obsessive about using semantic tags. And if I already have a tag called header, why would I give it a class of header? If I had, like, if an article like adequately describes like the redistributable content on my site, why do I also need to come up with another name? So if you've never heard this expression before, buckle up, you're going to hear it for the rest of your career. There's only two hard things in computer science, cache invalidation and naming things. And then some people will go, and off by one errors, because it, whatever, we'll talk about it later. But naming things is legit one of the most difficult things in all of software. So anytime I don't have to come up with a name because there's already one there for me, I will do that. Most people use classes for pretty much everything.
I mean, it makes sense, and I feel like you can almost better keep track of the specificity the way that you were doing it before, because if I just throw the class name in there, like if I wanted to target content specifically and I just went to the CSS and wrote .content and opened the squiggly bracket, I might not apply all the styles that I want to because of specificity. So maybe I can kind of see why you do it the way you do it.
Well, and like a trade-off to using tag selectors is they're really general and they might fly out of control and hit a bunch of stuff you didn't mean. So the way that I handle that in my own work is with a thing called name spacing. So I would probably do something like this, but I have that about me namespace. So what I would do is anytime I wanted to target something inside of that, I would like make it a descendant of that. So now I'm not going to target every H2. I'm not going to target every P. Like that could never happen because every one of them is under there. And then if I want that H2 to be bigger, then I do like about me H2 like that. Or if I want to do something with the paragraphs there, I might do something like about me, all paragraphs, do something like, I don't know, padding. And so since all of those start with about me, they're not going to target every H2. They're not going to target every P. And so in practice, that ends up containing those very general selectors pretty damn well.
That's kind of the happy medium.
Exactly.
You get the specificity and you get the ability to kind of distinguish between the layers.
Bingo.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool.
So you put the greater than symbol on the H2,
yeah,
but not on the P. Why?
Sure. So check out what happens if I do that with the P. Oh, those are direct children. They wouldn't have to be, though. Like, there still might be some other div in here that also has a P.
Okay.
And maybe I also want to target that. Right now, it doesn't do that if I do a direct child. If I do that, it does.
I didn't do it on that one either.
No, it did. So that.
That's the padding, not the red. Yeah. I think we were all looking for red lines to appear.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, was a red line.
Okay, we got to get used to looking for very fine details. That's the game here. So if I do that versus that.
Okay. Thank you.
So like a style sheet in the LMS looks like this. Like maybe. So like all of the, oh, actually that's a good one. All of the content that you look at is in a component called app content, and the styles for it look like this. The thing that is super unusual to y'all is I'm nesting selectors. That's just a descendant combinator. It's a SAS syntax for it. So like this internal link being inside of app content is the exact same thing as doing app content space internal link and then putting the styles there. But instead of having to do that for every single one of these, I can wrap all of them and kind of make a hierarchy for it. But lots of, like, all of this stuff is under this app content namespace. And so the fact that I did something to pre-tags and images and whatever else, like, it doesn't matter. H1s. I'm not doing this to every H1. I'm only doing it to H1s inside of app content. More questions about combinators, or the sibling combinators in particular?
Not a question, but an expression of appreciation for showing us how you do it, like actually when on an actual style sheet, because I feel like that's going to help me keep my stuff organized by seeing how you do it, because obviously you got experience. So I appreciate that.
So here's another like real world thing. In practice, you almost never use that combinator. That's why I was wrong about it. It just doesn't get used that much. It has a place, and like that place is bad HTML. It pulls you out of a jam if the document is structured in a particular way, and like you can't change it because, like, for instance, maybe you don't own it, and you need to get everything that comes after something, but they might have a bunch of tracking tags in between it or something like that, and you can't add a class to target it or whatever else. So the sibling selector like really doesn't get used that much. Adjacent sibling selector, I get a ton of mileage out of that, and you'll have seen why. It's this. When I'm spacing out a list of things horizontally and I need every one after the first one to like have a left margin or something like that, that adjacent sibling pulls you out. Direct descendant and descendant selectors constantly. Like those are bread and butter combinators. Like you're constantly using those. This one's rare. This one is extremely rare. Another piece of confusion I'm seeing a lot of with descendants. I'm going to go to, well, let me ask the question first. How many direct descendants does this have? Question goes to Andy.
2?
Andy.
Yeah, I said 2.
Oh, 2. Sorry. I thought you said who. Yes, it's got this one and this one. It does not have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 direct descendants. It does have 9. What kind of combinator? Question goes to Matt C. How many what? I almost gave it to you there. It has 2 direct descendants. It has 9 something else. You're muted, Matt.
It's not siblings.
Not sibling, not direct descendant. Has 9.
He started to give you the answer the first time.
Yeah, direct descendants.
Nope. 2
Not
direct descendants, 9
descendants.
Descendants. 9 descendants, 2 direct descendants. And so where this starts like tripping y'all up is if I say how many LIs are direct descendants of header, or even worse, how many LIs are direct descendants of nav? The answer is none. Because it only has 1 direct descendant and it isn't an LI. It has 3 LI descendants, no LI direct descendants.
Is there any difference? And I think this is kind of where I got confused when I went through the reading. Direct descendant and child are the same thing, right?
No, a child, well, like, it's one of the reasons, like, child is a little ambiguous, so that's the reason we're using the more specific descendant and direct descendant. Like, I would consider child to be a direct descendant, but I think it's a little ambiguous.
The only reason I ask is because when I was defining it, it was so hard to find any reference to direct descendant when I was researching it, like MDN, et cetera, didn't have it. And I think that's where I got super confused. I think I got the definition wrong 3 times before I was able to like put it into words, but I just couldn't find it.
Well, there's the MDN one.
Oh, I meant like as far as calling it a direct descendant is where I couldn't find.
Oh.
But I searched
Well,
like
what do they
CSS
call it?
direct descendant all over the web and everything.
Child combinator. Well, hey, there you go. I think direct descendant is more clear, but.
Well, knowing what I know now, I don't disagree. It was just more I didn't know if there was actually a difference or if it was just me not knowing what to search.
Nope, exact same thing.
Okay.
Here's another thing I see a lot in your work collectively, not just Julie. But when you're reading these combinators, this is the one that matters. This P here. Everything else is the context around that. So read your CSS selectors right to left. This says a P, which is a sibling of an H2, which is a direct descendant of something with the class about me. But the P is the thing you're targeting, not the H2, not the about me. You're just targeting specifically Ps that have those other characteristics. This is targeting an H2, which is a direct descendant of about me. That's also true with like pseudo classes. So if I had something like an about me P, a P that is an nth child of 2. Like this pseudo class is decorating the P. So it's a P tag, which is the second child of about me.
Can I see your HTML, your index.html on that? Okay.
That's weird. How come it did the first paragraph instead of the second paragraph?
I was literally about to ask that.
Yeah, why? It said nth child 2. What gives? Why is this the thing that got the blue?
If the class is about me.
Well, it is the P, which is the second child of about me. What's the second child of about me?
The P tag.
P.
This one. Because that's the first child. That's the second child. If I wanted the second paragraph, that is a child of about me, what would I change that to?
Can you do info type?
Now it targets the second one, because that is the second P tag that is some kind of descendant of about me. But that's about me's second child, which is also a P.
So I have a question about pseudo classes, specifically the even and odd pseudo classes.
Yeah.
because on your example, for like striping a list, you have li colon odd.
Did I?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, instead of and.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, that screwed me up.
Messed me up, and I tried to plug it into some code and mess around with it, and I couldn't get odd or even like that to work until I put the nth child in there.
Yep, because that's why I've been marking y'all wrong on that, because that's what it's supposed to be.
It's funny. I saw it too, but I was like, oh, because I went back to actually Googled it real quick, and it said, oh, you have to choose, odd or even of the nth child. I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Like in my mind, it was like that makes total sense. And I'm like, I don't know how I missed that from writings.
Good gravy. All right, my apologies. So here's why that happened. I was just looking at this last night. There. No. Okay, so this is all the content in the program right now. If I do a if I cat everything in here that is a Markdown file and count the words on it, there we go. That is 186,000 words that nobody has like reviewed or edited yet. So there's going to be some things like that in there. I tried to go over this with a fine-tooth comb. I did the absolute best job I could, but every once in a while, I waste a lot of your time with things like that. Apologies.
Are you trying to tell me that you're human?
that's what's happening here. But yeah, it needs to be inside of an nth child to work. Or nth of type, that works too. Biggest advice I could give you, read your selectors right to left. A P tag, which is a sibling of an H2, which is a direct descendant of something with a class about me. Questions about CSS Combinators?
Thank you. I've learned a lot.
Good.
Already made some adjustments on my project.
Excellent. Glad to see it. So big takeaways, read your selectors right to left. Descendant selectors, way more common than sibling selectors. Adjacent sibling is more commonly used than just the regular sibling selector. And it can be helpful to draw this tree out when you're trying to figure out selectors. Like, I still do it. Why should you automatically know? Like, just be able to visualize this stuff in your head. If you're having a hard time targeting something, two things. Draw this out and don't trust your HTML. Because like when you write this, weird stuff can happen. For instance, if I leave that out, that's fine. My browser will still try to figure this out. But if I want something that isn't part of the header or whatever, and I look at how it fixed that, check it out. Main is inside of header now because I didn't close the header tag. So if like you fat finger something like that, who knows where it might be? So it helps too to look in the element inspector. It's like, okay, an LI that is some kind of descendant of a nav, which is adjacent to like that kind of thing. That's my sage wisdom for you. Any last questions? All right. It is, all right, 15 minutes. See if you can get a couple more submissions done for the end of the day. Elsewise, cheers. See you stand down.